Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. And like you, I'm a professional speaker and I love listening to Speakernomics. Speakernomics is a professional speaker show that will help you thrive and grow a speaking business so you too can change the world. One keynote session, workshop, and speech at a time. And on this episode, we welcome Dr. Tom Griggs. And who is this PhD, you may ask? Well, he is a former college professor who left higher ed to pursue his dream of becoming a professional speaker, where he combines his 30 plus years of martial arts training with experiential learning concepts to create transformative learning sessions to develop black belt teams that overcome stress and cultivate cultures of success. He also leads the morning self-defense and safety sessions at events including NSA's Influence with Protect Your Asset, Personal Safety, and Self-Defense for Speakers. And by the way, he's a 4th degree black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. Tom, welcome to Speakernomics. How are you today?
Shark, I am so happy to be here. Thank you for that beautiful intro. I feel uplifted and empowered. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Now, to all my speaking friends, your rideshare comes to get you, but the driver is a little sketchy and you're not sure why the path to the airport is going through that dark alley that's not on the route. Or you've got someone in your speaking audience who wants to get a little more up close and personal than you can or should feel comfortable with in a normal situation. Or what about being in any situation like a dinner or a night on the town or any surrounding that's not as well as familiar as you may think? Obviously, we as speakers generally aren't delivering keynotes and workshops in dangerous locales or fight clubs. But after all, the first rule of Speaker Club is you must talk about Speaker Club. And this isn't a fear-based show, but considering that most large cities have a fair amount of crime, knowing your surroundings better and keeping yourself safe could help you both off and on the stage. And before we jump in, make sure to go to speakernomics.com. That's where you can find the tips, insights, and knowledge to help you become a better speaker, build a better business, and get paid to speak. Tom, let's dive in. The whole point of teaching these sessions at events like Influence and Thrive, where I got to meet you, is to help people create a killer keynote, or are you trying to create a legion of killer keynoters?
A little bit of both. No, honestly, great question. Great questions. I always tell my fellow speakers or any professionals that I deal with, interact with, your greatest asset is what? Your intellectual property and your peace of mind. I don't like fear-based anything, but let's be honest. If you dealt with a situation, if you kind of got your feathers ruffled before you go on stage on your way to the event, it can truly impact how you show up on stage. It can impact your presence. You may forget elements of your signature keynote story that you've told 1,000 times. Anything can happen. I like being able to empower people to know how to defend themselves, at least preventatively. Everyone goes, do I need to be a black belt? That'd be great, but we all know that's not easy. I think of it as, what are the different things you can do to protect yourself in everyday life? Even when we get back home, right, Shark? You go, you're on the road a lot. You get back home, you got errands to run and things to do. You've got honey-do lists, husband, wife, whatever, kids. And in that process, you're like, I'm forgetting about all the other stuff. I'm put that away. I'm just focused on being at home. But your safety still matters. It's still important. And how you take care of yourself and take care of other people, that's a whole nother subject. Third party, defending others, protecting others is something else that we don't get into, but that's something I also have an experience in. It's really important. So just like you keep your mind on your business, I always encourage you to keep your mind on your personal safety and your personal business, because the greatest asset you can protect is your mind and your peace of mind. So that's why I love working with speakers, because we're always on the road, like a lot of people. Hotels, getting in the ride shares, like you said, running to the stage, running off the stage. There's so many stories I heard at Thrive related to some safety things that it was just like mind-blowing, some of the things. Not necessarily personal issues. I'll give you one. I don't know if you were there when we were talking with one person. This one individual told me about a friend of hers who was a speaker who just getting ready to go on stage, and she just getting ready to go on and she looked, and sure enough, her bag that had everything in it, she put it down someplace, went over here and came back and it was gone. Now she has to go on stage knowing all her personal effects and things are now missing. Now imagine trying to give that 50 to 60 minute keynote, wondering, where are my credit cards? Where's my ID? Where's my phone? So those things happen. So the safety isn't just about, all of this. It's really protecting everything, from your property to your individual intellectual property as well, and your peace of mind.
Well, just for clarification, and I think you would agree with this, but I've heard similar type stories. This didn't happen at Thrive or Influence. Nobody's purse
No,
was stolen with
no, right.
stuff at the event, but you get around a
Sorry.
bunch of who share those war stories, and
Yes.
that's another great thing where you can kind of get together with everybody. But I know what martial arts has done for me my whole life. I've
Yeah.
practiced several different disciplines as well. But how do you think that martial arts helps speakers specifically, whether they're on or off the stage? What are some of the other stories? You shared one that you heard where somebody had something stolen, but what are the things you hear when you have discussions with people, especially in those morning sessions where they come? Because you're doing this sort of almost like a pre-event at Influence or Thrive. You're doing it early in the morning to kind of get everybody ready and awake and going. But I'm sure you've heard some stories that have been told to you as well.
So a couple of years ago, a lady told me a story where she was checking into her hotel, for example, and unfortunately she had kind of an odd experience with someone who seemed to be lingering around the lobby area. And again, we all travel as speakers, right? So this happens all the time. You're in and out, moving from gig to gig, engagement to engagement. And it's only because she had the peace of mind to kind of walk around the hotel lobby and see what he was up to. And he seemed to kind of be shadowing her. Then she could actually got hotel staff involved, and they got some other people involved, and they eventually had to, chase him away. But I applaud her for her wherewithal and peace of mind and insight, because she was tired. A long day of traveling. She's ready to go back to her room or check in her room and just relax. But she knew something wasn't right. So that's one of the tips I'd love to share is trust your gut, keep your head up, right? We always tell people awareness matters. If you can see it happening before anything escalates, that's you won the battle. If you don't have to fight, you actually won the battle. So it's really important. One of the tips I'll share is when you check in, be aware of what's happening and be careful. You don't have to rush. Take your moment, especially checking in, because that's when you're probably most vulnerable. And if I may share one more tip on the check-in side, sometimes we check in at the hotel and they say, okay, welcome, Mr. Keno, Mr. Kenny, your room is whatever. Sometimes ask the front desk, don't give out your room number verbally. They write it on the little sleeves. That's all you need. Because how many times we stood there in line and heard other people's room numbers being said out loud? So you have to take ownership of your safety and your well-being. And we're not being jerks, right? We're assertive. We're speakers. Shark, we're up there. We're telling people. We're giving people insights. We're trying to empower people. You can very respectfully and politely tell the front desk staff, please don't say my room number out loud. Just write it on the little card sleeve. Thank you. And everyone's the better for it. So great question, sir.
That's a great tip. So this is mainly for me, this question. They both have roots in Aki Jiu-Jitsu, but why did you change from Aikido, which I know you studied early, a traditional stand-up and throwing fighting style, to say Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, which is primarily a ground fighting style?
Right.
Dumb analogy, but that's kind of like going from being a keynote-only speaker to being a workshop-only speaker. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Right. I started off in Aikido because I needed some stress relief from a bad breakup in college. And so it was a perfect place for me to be, because that style was very flowing and going, and it wasn't striking. And one thing we always talk about too is that sometimes when people are coming from a bad place, whatever it is in life, the place they can go and either hurt them more or heal them more. And I in no way knock any other styles of martial arts, but if I had anger problems from getting my heart broken by my girlfriend or ex-girlfriend at the time, and I went to like a blood and guts beatdown type martial arts school, judgment, that probably would have made it worse for me. So it was important that I took this break when I left Aikido, because I'd found my areas of frustration, but it also taught me you can't muscle your way through everything. And that's an ongoing lesson I think a lot of people, especially us guys, have to sometimes understand. You can't always be alpha and hard about everything. And then when I ended up in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu years later, after going through other styles and going through different things, I discovered that was a place I needed to be, because it was a mixture of flowing, striking, you're on the ground, you're also doing a lot of stuff, standing up, throwing people, and joint locks and manipulation, but it's the variety which I love. And sometimes we go through life at a certain point, will we start and will we continue our path? They're not always in the same place. So it was very meaningful to me. I've always had love and respect for all martial arts. I've always fondly looked at Aikido as where I started, but it got me on my journey. And for us martial arts nerds, Aikido is an offshoot of Japanese Jiu-Jitsu in different directions. So a lot of those things made sense to me very easy. So it was a great place to start. And I needed that. I didn't need anything hard or rough.
Well, I like the tip you gave earlier, but give me one more self-defense tip that speakers should consider. I know you and I were talking offline, I think at Thrive several months ago about ride shares, whether it's Uber, Lyft, or any
Right.
taxi, whatever. But give us one of those to consider, because that's getting to and from the airport, and
Absolutely.
those kind of unfortunately some of those bad stories always make the news.
Right.
And it's not always as perfectly safe as you may think.
Right. Well, when you get in your car, when you get in your rideshare, whether your app is, they always have all the information about the driver. So first and foremost, check the driver, the license plate, make, model of the car, etc. When it shows up on your phone, I don't have a phone here, but just I'll just use it as a prop. When it shows up on your phone, screenshot and send it to what? A safety buddy. It could be a spouse, your assistant, your bestie, someone who knows where you are when you're arriving at your destination, at the airport and to the hotel. That way, then they have a record of who you are and who you're with, rather. And from there, you can actually track what's going on. And sometimes, depending on what you use, you can, if you're Apple or iPhone or any other type, the route the person takes is going to be, what it says on is different than like the Apple Maps versus the rideshare app. That's okay. Remember, this person knows the city, and it happened a couple times they went in a different route. But then I realized they were avoiding traffic or something like that. But at least people know who you are and where you are at all times. And you can also, I ask drivers all the time, hey, why'd you go this route? Or I make a joke, hey, we get dealing with traffic. And sometimes they just tell me. But I like to let them know that I know that I'm tracking as well. And so that way we're just in agreement and understanding. No one feels suspicious or called out. But you also let people know you're aware of what's happening. So I think that's a good way to share and connect with people and know that what's happening too. And a lot of us can also track, for example, a rideshare partner or safety partner can track your movements on their phone too, if they know where you're going as well. So it just helps. It never hurts to have an extra set of eyes on you, even if it's virtually. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that you do this in your own keynotes and workshops, and I remember seeing the session and influence in 2024 with Brian Bureau, and everybody in the audience was breaking a board. There's a lot of wood to bring to the conference, and had 800 people breaking boards. It's something I've done at my own sessions in the past as well with breaking boards, because my own background in martial arts and stuff I've done for interactivity. But when you think about the audiences that you speak to and serve on a normal basis, how can martial arts help an audience in a session? What is it that you want them to learn from you in yours, and what the discipline of what it is that you speak about on a regular basis?
Great question. One of the things I always share with people are basic releases. I know we're on camera, like when someone grabs your wrist, one of the first things I teach them is how to get out of it, or how someone puts a hand on their shoulder. This is very safe to teach audiences. Even you'll learn this, the self-defense, protect your assets, the morning sessions as well. But it allows people to interact with their audience members at their tables or in their chairs. But it also teaches them some key lessons, such as, I do a lot in work in conflict. And just because someone is doing something that you don't like, they're holding on to you or offending you by their actions or words, sometimes take a moment. You can't, just as someone, where's the old rule? If you grab me, I grab you back. If you push me, I push back. Now we're tussling, right, Shark? We're in a fight. Sometimes if we took a moment and say, hey, why is this person grabbing me? You may realize it may be their way of trying to stop you from doing something that could hurt you. I mean, it's a metaphor, but it's true. Just like in the workplace, right? How many times do you have a boss or someone who seems like they're a little bit tougher on you? Maybe they see something in you, or they want to stop you from making some mistakes they've seen in the past. So I always tell people, examine yourself first. Sometimes we are more reactive and we should be more responsive, especially in instances of conflict or things that don't go our way. So I like sharing that with audience members because of that physical metaphor. Another one too, and I appreciate you in some of our previous conversations, blocking, right? How many times, what's one thing we tell speakers? When you go get there early, or I learned this from a lot of speakers, get to the venue early, you shake hands with the sound people, and of course, be good with people. Check the stage out if you can ahead of time. Where do I want to stand? Where's my sweet spot? Every venue is different. Like you said, a workshop versus a keynote. The lights are different. The cameras are different. Where should I have my imaginary X or placement on the stage, or put some down? Just like in martial arts, doing katas and forms and understanding movements, where is my more comfortable spot versus where's my not so comfortable spot? If you notice there's a little preponderance of people on this side of the room, things happen. Am I going to lean more towards them or lean towards center? Can I encourage people? If you're in a situation where you can go into the audience, are you going to move a little bit more towards this side versus that side? but feeling comfortable and knowing how to, here's a funny one, pick up your feet. Because sometimes we're speaking and we're in the zone and our feet drag. And I'll give a real short, embarrassing story. As much as I've done in martial arts, I was at a conference like anyone else. The carpet was a little shaggy and I didn't pick up my foot and I almost ate it, but I didn't. I caught myself. And it made for a good laugh. But that's because it's me. Someone else, maybe the balance is so great. Maybe, we're gentlemen. Maybe ladies are wearing heels. So knowing how to move your body and being aware with your body, right? Sometimes we're tired, man. And so we're not at our best, but like I got a little pain here. I got a little thing in my shoulder, my knee or my ankle's bothering me. Knowing that body awareness means you can adjust your movements on stage and still feel very much like you. So I think martial arts teaches us a lot of that. And I love sharing that with the audiences.
Before we jump back to the second half of the show with Tom Griggs, let's take a few moments to hear from some outstanding speakers with their own safety and self-defense tips. Let's hear from Sarah Ohanesian, Tony Chatman, Laurie Guest, and Dr. Genie Snyder.
Sarah, this is important in any climate, but for you, what is a safety tip that you think about when traveling? Usually you're traveling alone as well, like most speakers do, and there's concerns with hotels and Lyfts and Ubers and just the world. But what do you think about from a safety standpoint?
I'm very vigilant. I grew up in the city. I grew up in Chicago. And so I'm very aware of my surroundings and environment. So I think that's one, is just to be vigilant. But then also I have a little device called a birdie.
And you're in a gang in Chicago, right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I carry with me is this little device called a birdie. And if you pull it open, it has a strobe light and it is a very, very loud sound. So to me, that's just comforting that I have that in my hand. I can use it if and when I need to. So at night, if I'm walking back to my hotel room by myself, I just have it in my hand. So it makes me feel a little more comfortable. And then I do share my location with my husband, because for me, just to have somebody, I check in with him. I'm at the next place. I'm at the event. I'm at the airport, just so he knows that I got to the next location safely.
Tony, when you think about traveling all the time, especially for a lot of our female speakers, but for all speakers, when they're out on the road, what is a safety tip you can think of to help people keep safe when they're going by themselves to different venues? You've got Uber, Lyft, all the taxis and everything else. People really have to stay conscious in today's world.
Couple of things. For me, number one, everything is about distance and awareness, right? So I am aware of every place I go. I can see what's going on. I never have tunnel vision. I think that's so important. Sometimes we lose the awareness of our surroundings. Often danger escalates. It doesn't just show up. And so if you can catch it when it's at a level 3, it's much easier to deal with than when it's a level 8. So I'd say being aware of your surroundings and keeping a distance from it until you can really gauge where things are is the number one thing I would say. Right. This is only headbutt distance.
Laurie, you've been speaking for a lot of years. What is your favorite safety tip as a speaker?
Well, it took me a long time to adjust to this because I like to talk to strangers, but I actually have stopped doing that. So I really keep to myself if I'm not traveling with a friend or my husband. I go in, I do the job, I go back out again. I stay pretty focused. If I'm walking down the sidewalk, I act like I'm a local rather than looking around like a sightseer. So my tip would be is I have kind of a bubble around me now that is not the Midwest friendly that I like to have. I could talk to anybody, anywhere about anything. I'm a huge talker. All my friends will tell you that. But when it comes to being in places I'm not familiar with, sitting and talking to a stranger in a bar, in a restaurant, it's time to let that go. So that's my safety tip. Doesn't feel good, but it's a smart thing.
Genie, it's always important to be safe and vigilant and know your awareness. But when you think about protecting yourself, when you go to so many venues and you're out on your own, sort of a self-defense thing, if you will, that you think about as you travel and speak to a lot of crowds?
That's a good question. The first thing that comes to mind is antenna up. I work with a lot of college students, college women particularly,
Exactly.
and I always say, have your antenna up. Don't be so, we can be gullible because I meet people easily. I talk to everybody on that gal in the elevator or the airplane, but having that antenna up. For instance, at this conference, I've gotten 3 spam messages. Hey, where are you? And it's not one of you. And so deleting it, so the digital defense of being aware and getting those off the phone immediately. And then the other was having the antenna up, even though we talk to people, being careful what's not being shared, what's not being sent to somebody. And just a practical tip, I learned this in a self-defense class years and years ago from a police officer. Look under your car before you get in it. Look around your car and under your car to make sure nobody's standing right there.
Now, let's jump back and close out the rest of the show with our guest, Tom Griggs. Tell us a little bit about the sessions you're doing at Influence this year.
Right. So they're called Protect Your Assets. They're going to be all 4 days. So day 1 to day 4. They are 6 a.m. to 6:45 a.m. You know, that's for a hardcore friend. I'd love to have you. We're going to cover some of those basic techniques of how to get out of grabs and hold. Tell people, I know I don't teach any strike or anything like that because trying to keep it simple. I want people to understand that they need to know how to get out of something and come to a good defensive posture. And as speakers, how to use our voice. Hey, what's going on? Encourage people to back up. Because this too, when we get panicky, we don't breathe. We kind of, some of us even hyperventilate. And when you hyperventilate or get a little panicky, we can't really speak. And we really need to say, hey, what's going on? Hey, step back. And again, that helps people. And you'll be amazed. Your years of doing this and also dealing with speakers and different audiences. There's some amazingly, incredibly assertive people out there in what they do. But if you're in a situation where it might be personal, physical conflict, even the most assertive person that we know in the speaker room might because that's not something they're comfortable with. They can be fierce in the negotiation on travel and lodging and fees and all that, which is fine. But this is scary. And I tell this men and women alike, it's scary. And we all don't deal with conflict and threats the same way. So a little bit of training goes a long way. And that's why I'm very much encouraging my fellow speakers to please attend. I'll be there. If you find me, you want to pull me aside to ask for a little one-on-one session here, no problem. I know that schedule might be kind of hard for people, but I'm there to serve my fellow speakers, NSA, and it's an honor. It really is. So thank you all so much.
Well, I'm doing this part of the Speakernomics show a little bit differently than I normally do, but what is a safety question that you would like to ask a future guest on every listener on Speakernomics?
No. What is one safety tip or one safety concept that you can apply? And if you don't know any, what have you learned? But your safety matters. So pick one, let us know what it is, and apply it and share it.
Honestly, and it just gets people to thinking a little bit about their safety. Just starting that conversation is great. Well, then let's do a quick recap based on Dr. Griggs' black belt advice. Number 1, self-defense isn't about fear. It's knowing that anything can happen anywhere. And as a speaker, little things can turn you off and distract you. The discipline, though, is about a peace of mind. And that's what you need to have as a successful speaker. Number 2, trust your gut and instincts wherever you are. Awareness matters wherever you are. And number 3, martial arts is great for self-defense, but it also teaches a lot of life lessons, like dealing with chaos. It's not about violence. It can be about examination of yourself. And after all, we're in the self-improvement business. Tom, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Influence. Any last closing thoughts before we speak ourselves off this stage?
Thank you for having me. And again, I encourage all my speakers, do your homework ahead of time or your pre-work. Just as much as you want to know about your company and the organization, the venue, know about the area. Where's that hotel located? You'd be amazed how we end up in some very interesting places. Are there been some challenges at the airport with fake or false rideshare? All that information is available. You got to go out there and find it. Remember, prevention goes a long way. And I wish y'all a safe and wonderful time. See y'all at Influence.
Friends, make sure to join us at Speakernomics.com and let your voice be heard. I'm Kenneth Shark-Kinney, your host of the National Speakers Association's podcast Speakernomics, and this has been another fantastic episode of the show. Thank you, Tom, for your service to NSA and for lending your voice to the show, and to everyone listening, thank you for the privilege of your time. And remember, Speakernomics is a podcast where you'll learn to speak, get paid, repeat.